I was having a conversation the other day with a good friend of mine. It would be very accurate to describe him as someone who is left-leaning and has a lot of social justice ideas, but regardless, I consider him intelligent and have a lot of respect for him, and the fact that he actually debates all of his ideas calmly and eloquently without autistically screeching and going into an unintelligible rant. So here's what he said, and it's also what the topic of the video is today. You can't be racist towards white people. The basis of his argument is that racism comes from a place of power and oppression, and due to the fact that white people rule society, it is impossible for a minority to be able to commit racism towards them, and that it is not oppressive towards a white person to say something racist towards them, i.e., all white kids are school shooters. Or something along those lines. So let's get right into how crazy this statement is and start debunking it. To start off, we'll detail his argument better from the perspective of a professional social justice warrior.
You're not welcome here! Stop talking to us like children!
Keep your hate speech out of this campus!
Keep your hate speech out of this campus! Keep your hate speech out of this campus! Keep your hate speech out of this campus!
Utter madness!
Get the fuck out of here!
And then we'll go into all the problems with it. So to start, we pulled an article from a news source I used to like a lot in high school, Vice.
Vice starts with the standard definition of racism, but then adds a couple requirements in order for it to be actually considered racist. First, history. Second, systematic oppression. And thirdly, power. In the article, they claim that white people have never been persecuted for the color of their skin, and there's no point in comparing their experiences to those of black, brown, and indigenous folks. So essentially, racism against non-whites is slavery, colonialism, theft, and all kinds of violations on systematic proportions, while racism against white is feelings being hurt.
The assertion here is that slavery started the history of the systems of oppression that would then allow white people to be racist towards other groups without being able to experience racism themselves. So, in order for the arguments to be valid, it would have to be true that white people never had to endure the harsh realities of slavery. This is ridiculous, as proven by the Volga trade route, white slavery in Iran, Christian slavery in Muslim Spain, the Barbary slave trade, the Ottoman slave trade, and the Crimean Khanate.
They might then claim that these instances of slavery did not occur in the US and therefore are not relevant. You must simply point out that the idea of white people being unable to experience racism is a universal claim they make, without qualifications of region. And even more relevant, since Western nations are often multicultural, the ancestors of the white slaves from each of the slave trades above, and their enslavers would be represented in Western societies, meaning that while some Africans in the West are the ancestors of the oppression of slavery, the same can be said for white people. The division of groups by historic slave-based oppression should have no color definition or barrier. They then drop the historic qualifications for racism and move towards the power. They would make the claim that power can only be measured as one unit within a society, meaning that since white people hold more total wealth and positions that they view as powerful, that then means white people as a whole have more power and are therefore in a position of greater total power.
The issue with this line of logic is again the grouping of people along racial lines. The way these people think is that if people of your own race have power, there must be some sort of trickle-down effect. It's not like this is always true. Whites in powerful positions do not themselves divide society by racial lines. The only way that this would happen is if the white person at the top wanted to lean towards giving whites better treatment. This means that the effects of an individual's power on their own race are entirely up to the individual, regardless of what SJWs think. Now that it's clear that power doesn't automatically just trickle down, let's look at what direct power means for race.
Consider a case in real life when 4 black teens in Chicago kidnapped and tortured a young handicapped boy. The question you have to ask yourself now is, who had the power in this situation? Did the alone, scared, and tied-up handicapped boy, or the 4 violent, psychotic black children? I will not give you the answer, but I will let you decide. But if you say the 4 psychotic black children, you will be dispelling the idea of power in the relationship to a qualification for racism against whites.
Let's look at the example of, say, Ethiopia, an African country that is mostly untouched by slavery. It resisted all Italian attempts to invade it, so the white man never really ruled over it at all or took any slaves from it. So let's say I'm in Africa, Ethiopia specifically. I'm not going to be too powerful there. I'm one white guy in a country filled with black Africans. Can they be racist towards me? Seeing as we've already established the fact that the Libby's argument is that racism can only exist if the people being racist hold the power, and let's say they all hated me in Ethiopia, it would affect my ability to get a job or have a normal, peaceful life there. Now let's flip it around. If I hated everyone living in that country, it would absolutely not affect any of them. Therefore, it utterly ceases to be a problem of race, because I'm still white, whether I'm in the United States or Ethiopia, and a black person would still be black regardless of where they are. So now that we've gone over the facts, let's summarize it for you. How do you defeat this retarded, you can't be racist towards white people argument? So let's say someone comes up to you, calls you a dirty cracker, and tells you that you're going to shoot up a school. You say, wow, that sounds pretty fucking racist to me. And then they say, well, it's not. You go, why not? They say, you can't be racist towards white people. You say, that sounds ridiculous. Why can you not be racist towards white people? And they respond with, well, because white people rule society and racism comes from a place of historical and systematic oppression. This is how you respond to the normie.
Racial oppression is not something that is unique to any one race, and since Western societies are not homogeneous and their citizens come from all around the world, every type of historic oppression is found within Western societies, meaning that no one race has a monopoly on racial oppression in the West. Furthermore, racial power theory only works if those in power subscribe to the same ideology as the SJWs, and since in an overwhelming majority of cases they do not, power does not trickle down racially. And that means the only form of power is explicit laws and regulations that favor one group over another. In the case of Western societies, we can see that the only such cases are at the expense of white people rather than the benefit. In order to fight racism, we must not use qualifiers while categorizing an act of racism as racism. Simply put, racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior, race being in a vacuum. A discussion of racism cannot take place if we overqualify the actions of one group as being racist while disqualify any racist actions of another group as being categorized as racist. Or, if you don't want to make that argument, you could always go, If you like the video and like our channel, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. Make sure you hit the notification button so you're always alerted when we release a new video.